Chapter 992. Song Wuyo returned to the living room with Gu Yanhao's shoes. She sat on the sofa as if she had lost her soul. Su Jing and Sister Song followed her in. Seeing her like this, they comforted her. "Madam, don't worry. Young Master Gu will be fine." Sister Song sat down beside Song Wuyo and gently patted the back of her hand. With this touch, she realized that Song Wuyo's hand was very cold. Sister Song looked at Song Wuyo with concern. "Madam, are you okay? Your hand is so cold. Are you feeling unwell?" Song Wuyo shook her head. Her voice was so soft that only Sister Song and Su Jing could hear her. "I'm fine. Miss, you don't have to worry too much. Sister Song is right. Young Master Gu will be fine." Moreover, Lu Jiming also said that the police didn't find young Master Gu. Young Master Gu is such a capable person, so he should have reached a safe place. If he didn't contact Miss, it might be because he found the mastermind who framed him and is working secretly. Su Jing's heart ached when she heard Sister Song say that Song Wuyo's hands were cold. It was not easy for Miss to live a happy life. She was doted on by young Master Gu and had a cute baby. Did she have to face the pain and uneasiness of young Master Gu's departure again? She was scared out of her wits when the plane crashed last time. Now, she fell off the bridge again. Why was it that they were always involved in such dangerous situations? Su Jing was also in a bad mood. Ade was gone. Of course I know that Ah Ho will be fine. I'm not worried about him. Song Wuyo looked at Sister Song and then at Su Jing. Suddenly, she smiled gently. Ah Ho is a very capable person. He will be fine. Moreover, the King of Hell will not dare to accept him. He will beat the King of Hell to death. I'm just sad for Ade. He's a good man. I still want to find him a good girl in the Gu clan so that he can get married and have a family of his own." When Sister Song heard this, her heart sank. Ade is still so young and good-looking. If I had a daughter, I would definitely let my daughter marry him. It's a pity that he left at such a young age. When Ah Ho returns, let's give him a grand farewell ceremony, Song Wuyo said sadly. Ah ha ha ha. At this moment, Little Treasure woke up. Xiao Bao was cute and smart, but he had a temper when he woke up. After she woke up, she would cry for a few minutes. Moreover, she couldn't be coaxed. The more she was coaxed, the more she would cry. Song Wuyo heard her crying. For a moment, he didn't think about anything. He didn't have time to think. She came over and picked Xiao Bao up from the crib. Xiao Bao was still angry at being woken up. Even if her mother hugged her, she would still cry for a while. Song Wuyo understood her well. She didn't comfort her and just let her cry. Su Jing and Sister Song didn't comfort her either. They just sat there quietly and looked at Xiao Bao. In the past, when Xiao Bao cried, she looked like she was angry and amused at the same time. It was so cute that it was funny. But this time, she seemed to be crying very sadly. Drop by drop, tears fell. Her crying was also different from usual. When Song Wuyo heard this, her heart sank even more. Song Wuyo carried Xiao Bao and walked back and forth in the living room. Actually, Song Wuyo could have taken care of the child all the time. But Song Wuyo didn't. She would only let Sister Song take care of the child when she was busy. She took care of the child because she cherished every minute and every second that she could spend with the child. In her previous life, she had always longed to have a child that belonged to her and Dongfang Xian. But she never had a child. In this life, she wanted to cherish everything. So, she didn't leave the child with Sister Song or hire a professional nanny. Miss Xiao Bao is crying very hard. Is she feeling unwell? Su Jing looked at Xiao Bao with concern. Chapter 993. Song Wuyo looked at Su Jing and said, "Ask Dr. Lin if he's free." Dr. Lin was their family doctor. Okay. Su Jing called Dr. Lin. In less than half an hour, Dr. Lin arrived at Wu Yu's manor. He examined Little Bao carefully. Little Bao's body was very healthy and there were no problems. Dr. Lin told Song Wuyo some things about the child's reaction when he was not feeling well. He also told her to give the child more nutritious food. Then, he left. Back and forth, the whole morning passed just like that. Song Wuyo felt like a year had passed this morning, but it was also filled with fear. Every time the landline rang, her heart would race. She was afraid that she would hear something that she did not want to hear. Every time she received a call, it would be about the collapse of the bridge. Her heart would relax a little. She did not eat much for lunch. As for the Gu clan group, there were some things that Gu Yanhao had to take care of personally. Song Wuyo had no choice but to leave Little Bao with Sister Song and return to the office. Given the Gu clan's current situation, Gu Yanhao did not declare bankruptcy. She knew that Gu Yanhao cared a lot about the company. Moreover, if he were to declare bankruptcy at this time, it would be equivalent to admitting that the children's clothing was produced by the Gu clan. Fortunately, Secretary Zhang and some other senior executives who were loyal to Gu Yanhao helped Song Wuyo a lot. Song Wuyo was busy in the office for the whole afternoon. The Gu clan stocks continued to fall today. It seemed that they were at a point of no return. At this time, Song Wuyo heard that a few of the elite fashion designers in the design department had jumped ship to Ame Group. At this time, the Gu clan would not be able to find any better designers. The Gu clan's main focus was women's fashion. Without the designers, it was like losing a pillar. The Gu family was like a building that was about to collapse, on the verge of collapse. But if they wanted to jump ship, Song Wuyo could not stop them. The salary offered by Ame Group was definitely much higher than that offered by the Gu clan. If it was in the past, the Gu clan wouldn't feel bad about the salary of his employees. But now, the company could no longer give the employees a raise. It was impossible for Song Wuyo to snatch him away from Ame Group. She was no match for them. After returning to the CEO's office from the meeting, Song Wuyo sat in the seat that Gu Yanhao usually used for work. On the table, there was a photo of them and Little Treasure. They carried Little Treasure and placed him in the middle. The three of them looked at the camera with their faces covered. It was a very happy and sweet photo. Gu Yanhao used diamonds to make a photo frame and put it in the photo frame so that it could be seen every day. Song Wuyo gently picked up the photo frame and looked at the person in the photo with a smile. Looking at the photo, Xiao Bao looked very much like Gu Yanhao. His eyes, nose, and face shape were all similar to his. "Ah ho, have you found evidence to prove your innocence? Let me tell you a piece of bad news. Today, a few top designers jumped ship to Ame Group. It's been one night and one day. Why aren't you back yet? Is this a secret operation? It's only been one day, but I feel like I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you so much." Today, Little Treasure was very angry when he woke up. He cried for half an hour. When Dr. Lin arrived, he was still crying. His little face was covered in tears. He looked like a little cat. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the office door. Song Wuyo looked up and glanced at the closed door. The sadness on her face disappeared and was replaced with a gentle smile. "Come in." Chapter 994. Secretary Zhang came in with a document. Madam, this is the termination contract from Jiqing Company. I've already read it. There are no problems with the terms. When we signed the contract, both parties mentioned that whichever party violates the contract will have to compensate the other party according to the terms of the contract. The termination contract from Jiqing has clearly stated the liquidated damages. There are no problems. Song Wuyo looked away from the photo and looked up at Secretary Zhang. Is the other party really insisting on terminating the contract? Secretary Zhang said, I've already talked to the other party. They insist on terminating the contract. Song Wuyo pursed her lips and reached out to take the contract. She glanced at the compensation and signed her name without looking at any of the words. Then she handed it to Secretary Zhang. Tell the person in charge of Jiqing that the liquidated damages will be transferred according to the time of the contract. Use this money to pay the employees this month's salary. Secretary Zhang was a little worried when he heard this. Will they just leave after receiving their salary? Song Wuyo smiled. If they want to leave, they can't be stopped. The company can't deduct their salary just to keep them. If they all want to leave, they will only be here and won't do anything for the company. In this way, the company still has to pay them. It's not worth it. I understand, madam. I will do as you say, Secretary Zhang said. After hesitating for a moment, Secretary Zhang took out a book from the pocket of his professional jacket and handed it to Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo looked at Secretary Zhang in confusion. What is this? Secretary Zhang looked at Song Wuyo. Madam, this is the property certificate. I work here and young Master Gu treats me well. When he found out that I had a boyfriend, he specially gave me a raise and bonus. He even gave us a new house for our wedding. But, my boyfriend fell in love with another woman. Before young Master Gu gave me this house, I bought one for myself. This house is just lying around. I'm giving you the property certificate now. With your resources, you can sell it for a good price. Use this money to help the company tide over this difficult time. Song Wuyo looked at Secretary Zhang in surprise when she heard this. The other employees couldn't wait to get more benefits from the company. She had received such treatment, yet she still wanted to return it to the company. The house that Gu Yanhao gave his secretary should not be cheap, and the location should be very good. Song Wuyo did not expect Secretary Zhang to be so magnanimous. Song Wuyo didn't accept it. Your CEO treats you well. Since he's giving it to you, you should accept it. Besides, even if they invested this sum of money, it might not be able to save the Gu clan. If the Gu clan goes bankrupt and can't afford to hire you, won't you suffer a great loss? Secretary Zhang insisted on giving the room certificate to Song Wuyo. Madam, I want to follow the Gu clan to the end. If it does go bankrupt, I'll just lose my job. If this continues and there's no improvement, then don't give me my salary for now. You can give it to me when the Gu clan's economy recovers. Song Wuyo was very touched. Ah, Ho has a good eye for you to be his secretary. Secretary Zhang smiled embarrassedly. I've learned a lot in the company. The company treats me very well. They let me feed and Song Wuyo, support your sister-in-law through college, and even give me my own savings in-house. These are all given by the company. I also know that my salary is the highest in M-City's secret book industry. Even in Changgong's secretary doesn't get as much as me. Chapter 995. Song Wuyo did not accept Secretary Zhang's property ownership certificate, so Secretary Zhang placed it on the table and walked out quickly. Song Wuyo looked at Secretary Zhang's property ownership certificate quietly. She sighed with emotion. What a good employee. She returned the certificate to the company after breaking up. There were very few employees like her. Song Wuyo took the certificate and placed it in the drawer. She could still make decisions for Gu Yanhao on other matters. But she did not want to make decisions for Secretary Zhang's property ownership certificate. She wanted to wait for Gu Yanhao to come back. When Song Wuyo left the Gu clan building, it was almost 8 o'clock. She did not pay attention to the news about the bridge collapse. She would panic and be afraid. Su Jing drove back to the manor. Maupassant, who had been busy outside, had also returned to the manor. He was sitting on the sofa. It seemed that he had deliberately waited for Song Wuyo to come back. I already know about what happened to Aude. Maupassant looked at Song Wuyo. My condolences. Song Wuyo sat down tiredly. How is Huang Ling? She's fine. She is under house arrest by Migu. Migu did not do anything to her. I did not tell her about young Master Gu. Don't tell her. She is not with us. We cannot protect her. Don't tell her. Even if you tell her, it will be useless. I don't know how to comfort her, but I believe that young Master Gu will be fine. Thank you. So far, what do we need to do to make the Gu clan recover? It will be difficult. I suspect that someone is manipulating the stock market behind the scenes. They are causing the Gu clan stock prices to plummet. They are continuously attacking the Gu clan. The Gu clan has been established for a long time. It is not like they have never experienced a plunge in their stock prices. But this time, it is very serious. Could it be because of the poisonous clothing? Maupassant asked. This is one of the reasons, but the netizens have analyzed it. They all believe that Ah Ho would not do such a thing. It was all because Gu Yanhao usually performed very well. He helped Migu become the president, helped Migu with disaster relief, invested a lot of money and energy into researching a medicine to deal with the heavenly thunder, and donated money to the welfare and nursing homes every month. They all believed that Gu Yanhao would not do such a black-hearted thing. If he loved money and was greedy for petty gains, he wouldn't have done so much for K country. So what if the netizens believe us? How many shares of the Gu clan could the netizens buy? The Gu clan situation won't get any better until we find evidence to prove the Gu clan's innocence. Although Maupassant was a soldier, he still had some clues about the battles in the business world. Song Wuyo smiled gently. There was a trace of tiredness in her eyes. Ah Ho and I are already prepared to go bankrupt. Maupassant smiled. If you really go bankrupt, you can come live with Huang Ling and me on Magical Beast Island. Song Wuyo raised her eyebrows and looked at Maupassant blankly. Magical Beast Island. It is an island that I bought privately. It is not managed by L country or K country. You can live there without worry. The beasts on the island will not harm you. I have this plan. If Huang Ling is willing to live with me, I will bring her to live on the island. I will build our beautiful home there. Your own island. It is very classy. I like the feeling of being in a forest. Is it because you are a soldier? I don't know. Even the beasts listen to you. Maupassant, you are really a legendary man, Song Wuyo said with a smile. But I can't save Huang Ling. The Mu estate seems to have designed a barrier. Maupassant frowned. It is very mysterious. Chapter 996. That's not a barrier. It's a high-tech lock that uses ultraviolet rays to install, Song Wuyo said. It should be similar to the ranch. Anyone who entered without Migu's permission would be discovered. High-tech. Maupassant shouted. A look of determination flashed across his eyes. I must break his high-tech lock. Song Wuyo did not say anything. She also hoped that Maupassant had the ability to break Migu's high-tech lock. However, what she hoped for the most now was that Gu Yanhao could come back soon. Sister Song had finished preparing dinner. She came out of the dining room and called her in for dinner. This is a check. Maupassant suddenly took out a check and handed it to Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo, who had just stood up, sat back down. She was very grateful to Maupassant for helping her like this. Compared to Migu, Maupassant was much better. Gu Yanhao and Maupassant did not spend much time together, but Maupassant was very loyal. The Gu clan was facing an economic crisis, and this was not the first time Maupassant had helped Gu Yanhao with money. I can't take your money anymore. You've already done a lot of it. Maupassant, take the money. Huang Ling has already taken out all her savings. You have to keep some. Otherwise, how can you provide for her to live a good life? Song Wuyo refused to accept Maupassant's check. This is not my personal money. It's the money from my army. Some of it was donated by my brothers, Maupassant said. Song Wuyo laughed when she heard this. The Gu clan had actually fallen to the point where they needed donations. Maupassant seemed to read Song Wuyo's mind. He laughed softly. The reason why my subordinates donated money to help the Gu clan is because they feel that young Master Gu is an upright person and should not be framed by despicable people. They want to lend him a hand and help him get through this difficult time. As for me, it was all because of Huang Ling. If I don't help the Gu clan, Huang Ling will think that I'm heartless and abandon me. Thank you. Song Wuyo really needed money to maintain the Gu clan's current situation. With money, the Gu clan would not be so miserable. Although it couldn't make the Gu clan go back to how it used to be, it could at least buy them some time. Song Wuyo accepted Maupassant's check because Maupassant had already eaten and didn't accompany her. She ate alone in the restaurant. This meal was tasteless. She had eaten every meal with Gu Lihao. If she suddenly stopped eating with him, no matter how fragrant the food was, it would feel tasteless. After they finished eating, Song Wuyo came out and Maupassant left. Song Wuyo was very tired, so she went upstairs to take a shower. After she lay on the bed for a while, Sister Song came in with the sleeping little Bao. Madam, little Bao is asleep. Sister Song's voice was very soft. Song Wuyo sat up from the bed and carried little Bao. Madam, young Master Gu hasn't called you all day. Sister Song could see that Song Wuyo missed him. Song Wuyo lowered her head and looked at little Bao. No, he should be very busy. Sister Song smiled and agreed. Yes, young Master Gu has a lot of things to do every day. He's very busy. However, in her heart, she thought that no news was the best news. After Sister Song went out, Song Wuyo lay on the bed with little Bao in her arms. Little Bao was sleeping soundly with a baby pillow and a thin blanket over him. My baby, you're really cute. She wouldn't be angry when she woke up at night because she needed to drink milk. However, during the day, even if she was hungry, she would throw a tantrum for a few minutes before eating. Song Wuyo caressed little Bao's smooth little face and said gently, Little Bao, Mommy loves you. I really love you very much. Chapter 997. Late at night, there seemed to be thunder and rain. The entire moon was dark, and the temperature was so high that it was irritating. Even the wind that blew over carried a gust of hot air. From time to time, muffled and not very loud thunder could be heard coming from the distant sky. In the Mu estate, a black shadow appeared on the rooftop of the main building. He had come in. He had broken through the ghostly high-tech building in the estate. His tall figure walked down the stairs with light steps on the rooftop. Huang Ling had told him where she lived. When he reached the second floor, the man in black knocked on Huang Ling's room. He had heard that Migu and the butler, Uncle Fu, were not in the estate tonight. As for the palace-like villa that Magoo lived in, the maids were not allowed to enter once it was dark. Therefore, the man in black was able to smoothly go from the rooftop to the second floor when Magoo and the butler were not there. The corridor was quiet, and the knocking on the door seemed abrupt. Soon, the man in black heard the sound of the door being unlocked. He smiled and was a little excited. However, when the door was opened, he felt uncomfortable. It was not Huang Ling who opened the door for him, but Magoo. Besides Ching Wanduo, there was also a group of bodyguards accompanying him. The man in black was shocked. He looked left and right, and a group of bodyguards suddenly rushed out of the quiet corridor. Magoo stood there like a god, exuding the aura of a king. He looked at the man in black coldly, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. "Maupassant, I didn't expect to set you up so easily. It seems that Huang Ling is really important to you. I don't know if you are important to her." After saying that, Magoo's eyes suddenly turned cold. He waved his hand and said coldly, "Take him down." The grassland had a beautiful environment. Sheep were in herds and piles, and some horses were grazing and some were running. There was a natural freshness in the air, as well as the smell of grass, sheep, and horses. Early in the morning, the sun was shining brightly, the sky was blue, and the clouds were white. It was another fine day. However, in one place, the air was filled with the smell of blood. At Magoo's ranch, in front of the small bungalow where he lived, the atmosphere was strange and the smell of blood was extremely strong. Maupassant, who was dressed in black, was completely drenched. It wasn't the water that had soaked his clothes. Instead, it was the blood that flowed out of his body that soaked his clothes. He was tied to a tree in front of the bungalow. In order to let the bright sun shine on him better, the people here had even cut off all the branches on the tree. Maupassant was tied to the trunk of the tree like a rope. He stood with his back against the tree trunk. His black clothes had holes here and there. It was a complete mess. Some of the wounds looked like they had been pierced by bullets, while others looked like they had been cut by a knife. No matter what kind of weapon it was, the blood from every wound flowed out like a fountain. Maupassant, who had always been in good spirits and had a strong physique, looked like he was dying at this moment. He couldn't even lift his head and hung down. His beautiful hair was all wet, and the tips of his hair were dripping with sweat that was stained with blood. In the hot summer, when it wasn't raining, the temperature was frighteningly high. Even in the early morning, the bright sun was very piercing. The sunlight shone on Maupassant's body, turning him into a bloody man with light. Under his feet, there was a 1-meter-wide broken glass. The shapes were different, but each piece was sharp and sharp. It formed a path of broken glass that was 30 meters long. Chapter 998. 30 meters away, Magoo sat lazily and elegantly on a golden chair carved with dragon patterns. Beside him, Ching Wanduo sat on a chair carved with phoenix patterns. On both sides of them, there was a small table. On the table, there were fruits, water, and flower tea. Behind them, there were bodyguards holding umbrellas. They were like the emperor and empress, sitting there and looking at the guilty. Ching Wanduo held a string of green grapes and ate slowly. He narrowed his eyes and looked indifferently at Maupassant in front of him. How much blood did this man bleed? She ate the grapes and smelled the stench of blood from 30 meters away. Magoo rested his elbow on the table next to him and rested his chin on his hand. The corners of his lips were slightly raised as he looked at Maupassant with a faint smile. He was very satisfied with Maupassant. In K country, he could do whatever he wanted to him. Moreover, he was not afraid of his grandfather coming to find him because he broke into his wife's room in the middle of the night. For a man who wanted to steal his wife, he should teach him a lesson. Brother Mo. A sharp voice suddenly broke the silence. Huang Ling, who was carried up by 2 bodyguards, screamed as soon as she saw Maupassant tied to the tree. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Seeing Maupassant hang his head and his black clothes wet, she thought he was dead. She struggled and wanted to rush up, but the 2 burly bodyguards held her tightly. Her struggles were all in vain. Maupassant! Huang Ling called out to Maupassant. She was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. Bring him here. Magoo's indifferent voice sounded. His tone was not loud, but it was full of dignity. His voice instantly attracted Huang Ling's gaze. Huang Ling suddenly looked over and glared at him. Magoo, you killed him. Magoo's face was full of disdain, and the sneer on the corner of his mouth became wider and wider. He's not dead yet. Cheng Wanduo charmingly smiled, looking at Huang Ling who was being dragged over. 2 beasts. Huang Ling glared at Magoo angrily. A president like you will one day die a worse death than Qing Jianxin. Whether or not I die a miserable death is not something you should care about. You should care about your brother Mo first. Magoo looked at Huang Ling with disdain. Huang Ling was shocked and looked at Maupassant. The weak Maupassant heard her voice and tried hard to raise his head to look at her. His eyes were covered by the fringe on his forehead. His fringe was wet and dripping with water. Huang Ling couldn't see his eyes, but she could see the smile on his lips. When Huang Ling saw it, her heart ached, her breathing stagnated, and her legs went soft. He was smiling at her, telling her that he was fine. His calf, knee, and thigh were shot. His abdomen, chest, arms, and shoulders were slashed. His braid was torn, and his head was knocked a few times. There was no concussion, but he was bleeding. He had been tied up for 40 minutes. Magoo looked at Huang Ling with a faint smile. Now, whether he lives or dies, it's all up to you. Huang Ling was scared out of her wits and her face was pale. She shouted at Magoo, "Bastard, why are you doing this? Why?" Magoo's eyes were cold. "Because last night, he broke into my house and wanted to take you away." Huang Ling was shocked when she heard that. She looked at Maupassant in shock. He wanted to save her. Didn't she ask him not to do that? That was Magoo's tiger's den. If he broke in, wouldn't he be courting death? Chapter 999. Haven't you always wanted to divorce me? Today, I'll grant you your wish. Magoo pointed at the path of glass shards lazily. Walk over there barefoot. If Maupassant doesn't die from excessive blood loss and you can bring him away from the farm, I'll grant you your wish and wish you two a happy couple. When Huang Ling heard that, she looked at the path of glass shards in shock. Those glass shards could even cut through flesh. Usually, she would feel uncomfortable walking barefoot on the road. Even stepping on the pebbles in the park would cause unbearable pain in her feet. But now, she had to step on the glass shards and the distance was so far. Looking at the path of glass shards, Huang Ling's heart could not help but shudder. Magoo looked at her with a smile. Didn't you say that if he dies, you'll die with him? If you die, he'll die with you. What's wrong? Just a few glass shards and you're stumped. Huang Ling, let me tell you, the road to the underworld is much more difficult than this glass path. Huang Ling raised her head and looked at Maupassant. Maupassant raised his head with great difficulty and shook his head at her. No, he did not want her to walk over. If she walked this path, her legs would be gone. Every single wound is deep. Even though it's not fatal, the bleeding won't stop. If we don't save him now, he'll die from excessive blood loss. Cheng Wanduo thought that it was amusing when he saw Huang Ling's pale face and emphasized on Maupassant's situation out of goodwill. Let go of me. Huang Ling wanted to break free from the bodyguard's grip. Without Magoo's orders, the bodyguard did not dare to let go. Magoo waved his hand lazily. Let go of her. He did not believe that the weak Huang Ling could walk through this glass path. Once she was released, Huang Ling took off her shoes immediately. She glared at Magoo and Qing Wanduo fiercely. You adulterous couple. You'll get your retribution. Magoo did not take her words to heart at all. To him, wasn't his previous life and this life also karma? In 2 lifetimes, he was unable to obtain the woman he loved. This was retribution. Retribution had already come, so what was there to be afraid of? Die. He was not afraid of death at all. Having died once, he felt that death was not scary at all. But for those who had never died, for those who still had something to worry about in this world, it was terrifying. Today's temperature is higher than usual. If you don't want him to die, hurry up. Magoo's tone revealed a trace of impatience. He was very unwilling to sit here and bask in the sun. Huang Ling took 2 steps forward and looked at the glass shards under her feet. If she stepped on it, it would be very painful. She gritted her teeth and steeled her heart. Pain. What was there to be afraid of? She had to save Maupassant. Taking a deep breath, Huang Ling no longer felt afraid. She lifted her foot and stepped on it. Hiss. The sharp glass shards pierced into her flesh, causing her to tremble and suck in a breath of cold air. He then lifted his other foot and stepped on it. A heart-wrenching pain suddenly came. It was very painful. Huang Ling's entire body was trembling. She stood there and seemed to have heard the sound of glass piercing her flesh. People said that the 10 fingers were connected to the heart. Now that the soles of her feet were cut, it was even more painful. Stepping on the floor that was hot from the sun barefoot, she was in so much pain that she jumped up. The pain now made Huang Ling want to jump up. But when she saw the man in front of her, she endured it. This man was like this in order to save her. Now, she wanted to save him. Enduring the pain, Huang Ling took the second step. Whether she stopped or stepped on it, it was painful. No. Chapter 1000. Maupassant looked up and saw Huang Ling stepping on it. He shook his head. Silly girl, don't. After walking, her feet would be crippled. Magoo sat lazily on the chair and elegantly ate the snacks. His expression was indifferent, and his gaze was also indifferent. His entire person gave off a very cold feeling. Qing Wanduo, who was sitting beside him, had a trace of a smile in his eyes. He looked at Huang Ling's feet as if he was watching a show. She was bleeding. The glass shards pierced her flesh and started to bleed. Every step Huang Ling took was very difficult. Her entire body swayed and was on the verge of collapse. Huang Ling, don't walk. Maupassant shouted. He was a soldier, and his willpower was very strong. He was not afraid of death. Even if the blood dried up and he died, he did not care. He wanted her to live healthily. He did not want her to bear such pain. Looking at her painful appearance of being unable to move an inch, his heart ached. It was as if these glass shards were not piercing Huang Ling's feet, but his heart. No. Huang Ling smiled and endured the pain. Her speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. It was not that she did not want to be slow, but she could not be slow. If she was slightly careless, she would fall and be covered in wounds. In order to prevent herself from falling, she pressed her hands tightly on her 2 thighs to stabilize her body. She raised her face and looked at Maupassant. She smiled and said, "As long as I walk over, I can save you. Brother Mo, I won't give up. I won't die. I won't die either. Brother Mo, if you live, I live. If you die, I die." You don't have to feel sorry for me. When Maupassant heard this, his heart ached when he heard this. If you live, I live. If you die, I die. Maupassant looked straight at her. His eyes under his bangs were red. When he saw that her feet were bleeding, he, who had never shed tears, felt his eyes heat up, and there was a glint in his eyes. Huang Ling was in great pain. This kind of pain was indescribable, and no one could understand it. The glass shard pierced into the flesh, and another shard pierced into the same spot, causing the wound to be very deep. More and more blood flowed out. Her pace became slower and slower, and her body swayed even more. Silly girl. You silly girl. Maupassant's voice was choked with sobs. After knowing her for so long, he understood her personality. If she was determined to do something, it was impossible to persuade her otherwise. Ah! Finally, Huang Ling's body couldn't take it anymore. Her legs went soft and she knelt down. The glass shard pierced into her knee. She swayed in pain and accidentally braced her hands on the glass shard. Her knees and palms were scratched by the glass shards. The pain made Huang Ling shiver all over. So painful, it was as if someone had broken his bones and tendons. No matter how strong Huang Ling was, she couldn't help but cry. When Maupassant saw her fall, he shook his head and said in a choked voice, "Huang Ling, don't go. Don't go." Huang Ling couldn't stand up for a moment. After kneeling for so long, not only were her knees pierced by the glass shards, even her legs were injured. She looked at Maupassant with tears in her eyes. She cried and laughed at the same time. Why don't I go? I'm already injured. Why should I give up? Brother Mo, we can definitely be together. Maupassant didn't know what to say. He hated that he was in a foreign country. If they were in his country, he would be able to protect her well. Huang Ling stood up with difficulty. She had only taken 2 steps when she fell again. Ah! The injuries on her legs and palms made people unable to look straight at them. Although it was very painful, Huang Ling didn't feel despair when she saw herself take 2 more steps forward. Chapter 1001. She stood up a few times in a row and fell down after taking a few steps. She decided to just crawl over. Huang Ling. Maupassant's heart ached when he saw her crawling over. He called out to her loudly, his body struggling. His emotions were extremely agitated. He stared at her. You're crazy. Don't crawl. No. Huang Ling shook her head, tears streaming down her face. We can't be together in life. Even if we die, we have to be together. We're not even afraid of death. Why would we be afraid of these injuries? Maupassant, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be injured for you. I've always wanted to be injured for the man I love. My wish has finally come true. What kind of wish was that? Don't feel sorry for me. I know that even if I become disabled, you won't despise me, I won't. No matter what she became, he would not despise her. Huang Ling smiled, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. If I can't crawl over, if I leave first, I'll wait for you beside the 3-life stone. Maupassant curled his lips. Finally, he could not hold back his tears. If I leave first, I'll also wait for you beside the 3-life stone. We'll carve our names together, hold hands, and jump into the river of forgetfulness. Huang Ling's throat was blocked by a sour feeling. Tears flowed down her face as she crawled forward slowly. Rather than saying that she was crawling, it was better to say that she was moving her body slowly forward. Magoo looked at the glass shards stained with blood and listened to their conversation. His heart sank a little. He had experienced this before. He had seen a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks jumping into the river of forgetfulness together, a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. Magoo looked at Huang Ling and Maupassant coldly. They were a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. In the beginning, Cheng Wan Duo watched Huang Ling step on the glass road with the mood of watching a show. Slowly, he saw that she did not give up even though she was covered in wounds. His heart did not feel good. Magoo had told her that he wanted to divorce Huang Ling. If Huang Ling had not left the glass shard, Magoo would have divorced her. Cheng Wan Duo looked at Huang Ling indifferently. She seemed to be injured all over. When he was climbing, he fell and was injured in the front. How deep was her love for Maupassant that she had the courage to step on it? Cheng Wan Duo tilted his head and glanced at Magoo. If he was the one tied to the tree, would she have the courage to step on the glass shards like Huang Ling? Or, if she was tied to the tree, would he step on the glass shards to save her? A complicated look flashed through Cheng Wan Duo's eyes. No, he wouldn't. He didn't like Huang Ling like Maupassant did. He didn't care about her life or death at all. He wanted to divorce Huang Ling, not because she was pregnant with his flesh and blood, but because he saw Huang Ling's medical report. When the train entered this unfamiliar city, there were neon lights that had never been seen before. Maupassant started to sing. He looked at Huang Ling and sang Huang Ling's favorite song. When Huang Ling heard it, she was very touched and tears flowed down uncontrollably. As she climbed, she sang along with him. When I opened the letter you sent me when we parted, I suddenly felt an incomparable longing. In the winter where there was no snow, in the city where there was no night, I heard people cheering and crying. I've long gotten used to traveling through the seductive night, but I can't forget your face. Has anyone ever told you that I love you very much? Has anyone ever cried in your diary? Has anyone ever told you that I care very much, that I care about the distance between this city? Their singing was intermittent, with a crying sound, but also with a kind of deep affection that no one else could understand. Chapter 1002. Their singing was intermittent with a sobbing tone, but it also had a kind of deep affection that no one else could understand. Cheng Wan Duo's face became a little gloomy. She suddenly felt that she couldn't bear to see Huang Ling like this. She tilted her head and looked at Magoo. Magoo's face was very gloomy. His eyes were deep and he was in a daze. Cheng Wan Duo really wanted to say, Magoo, forget it. Let them go. But she was also afraid that he would give her a cold look. She didn't want to do anything that would make him unhappy. His gaze seemed to be looking forward, but it was not focused. He was thinking about something. Huang Ling and Maupassant singing made Magoo recall the scene when he sang with Huang Ling on the rooftop. Actually, he was pretending to be drunk that night. He wanted to rely on pretending to be drunk to vent. He had been drinking horse milk since he was a child. How could he get drunk so easily? He remembered that he had shouted with her, love even in death. Don't cry until you smile. The heart of the universe is still there. Love each other every day as if it's the end of the world. Every minute and every second is beautiful enough to make tears fall. Don't care if others think highly or negatively, as long as you dare to come with me. The lyrics of this song were really what Maupassant and Huang Ling wanted now. Love even in death. Every minute and every second. Don't care if others think highly or negatively, as long as two people love each other, what's there to be afraid of in death? Thinking about the scene of singing with Huang Ling, he couldn't help but recall the time when he drank horse milk with Gu Yanhao at the ranch. At that time, his memories of his previous life had not been awakened. His relationship with Ah Ho was as deep as that of a brother. At that time, they didn't have as deep feelings for Song Wuyo as they did now. Because the woman they were waiting for had not arrived at that time, after singing, did anyone tell you, Huang Ling crawled 10 meters away. Brother Mo, do you still remember where we first met? Huang Ling asked as she cried and laughed. She cried, not because she was sad, but because she couldn't bear the pain in her body. However, she was in a good mood because she could be with Maupassant openly. It didn't matter whether he lived or died. She wanted to go over and hug him. At Wuyo's manor, I remember your expression, your clothes, and your tears. Maupassant smiled. Because he had lost too much blood, his voice was filled with fatigue. At that time, Brother Mo, you were wearing a vest with a striped t-shirt underneath. You remembered wrongly. That was what we wore when we first met at the bar. This girl's memory was really bad. Ah. Huang Ling fell again. This time, the fall was very serious. His entire body was lying on the ground. When his chin hit the ground, it was scratched by the glass shards. Maupassant felt another wave of heartache. After such a long time, she had only walked 15 meters. Another 15 meters, halfway through the journey, she was covered in wounds. Can you get up? Maupassant asked with heartache. Huang Ling's arm was also injured. It hurt so much that she wanted to rest for a while. But she couldn't. She couldn't rest. The closer she got to Maupassant, the clearer she could see his handsome face. He was very tired. It was the blood that kept flowing that made him so tired. She endured the intense pain and used her arm to support her body. She crawled forward bit by bit. Brother Mo, Huang Ling raised her head and grinned at Maupassant. Maupassant looked at her dotingly. We're getting closer and closer. Huang Ling smiled. Come on, my Ling is great. Fortunately, my underwear is thick enough, Maupassant. Chapter 1003. Otherwise, my breasts and the soles of my feet would be full of glass shards. Maupassant, this girl, she was still in the mood to make such a joke at a time like this. How could Maupassant not know her good intentions? She was looking for a topic to chat with him and make him feel better. She was worried that he would not be able to persevere. Moreover, she would not feel the pain of talking about such a relaxing topic. Just like when she was singing just now, she crawled a long distance after singing a song. Next time, don't wear such thick clothes. After you take off your clothes, it's 2 small steamed buns, Maupassant said softly. Small steamed buns are also meat. Do you dislike them? No, I don't dislike them. It's just that I don't dislike your meat. I'm injured, you don't dislike that you're injured too. No, Brother Mo, I'm saying that my chest was really pierced. I don't dislike them. Ching Wan Duo listened to their conversation and suddenly felt envious of them. It sounded like a dirty joke, but it was the truth that they had revealed from the bottom of their hearts. It was the truth. Ching Wan Duo pursed her lips. Migu had never talked to her about such topics. She looked at Huang Ling. If she kept crawling and falling, her breasts would really be injured. No matter where she was injured, she would still be injured and bleeding. They were encouraging each other in such a way. At this time, they could still talk so casually. Ah! Huang Ling fell again. Her legs were stretched out in pain. Her entire leg was injured. Cheng Wanduo saw her fall heavily and couldn't bear it. She looked at Migu. Migu, let them go. Migu's eyes were deep and cold. When he heard Cheng Wanduo's words, he looked at her coldly and sneered. Pretending to be a saint. Cheng Wanduo heard this and felt a little uncomfortable. Couldn't this man give her a little bit of face? Cheng Wanduo got up. You're under the sun and need to pee. I'm going back. It's not good for the fetus if you hold your pee. After saying that, he turned around and left quickly. Migu didn't ask her to stay. When he heard her say that holding her pee was bad for the fetus, he didn't show a trace of concern. He looked ahead coldly and sneered. Huang Ling tried to get up, but her elbows gave way and she fell back down. Huang Ling! Maupassant cried out anxiously. He looked at her worriedly and nervously. Huang Ling was lying there. Her body was in pain. The blood flowing out of her body was about to soak her clothes. She raised her head and smiled at Maupassant. I fell again. Maupassant's heart ached. If they could leave this place alive, he would not let her down in the future. Pick yourself up from where you fall. Huang Ling's face withered. That's the only way. If we don't get up, do we have to keep lying down? Finally, Huang Ling swallowed her saliva. Her body was in so much pain that she didn't even have the strength to speak. Brother Mo, even his grandmother's head is in trouble. Maupassant was speechless. Girl, be more civilized with your words. There were outsiders listening. It's so painful, let's go back. I'll help you apply the medicine personally. Can I refuse? Huang Ling said as she struggled to get up. No, only I can help you apply the medicine. Did she want another doctor to apply the medicine for her? Huang Ling's forehead was full of sweat. Beads of sweat overflowed from her delicate pores and slid down her cheeks. Then, they fell on the glass shards and bloomed like crystal flowers. She looked ahead. She was close, close. If she persevered and worked harder, she would reach the end of this road. Chapter 1004. She raised her face that was wet with sweat but very pale. She smiled at Maupassant. We're close. Maupassant's cheeks were dripping with sweat drop by drop. The blood-colored sweat made him look incomparably sexy. Go for it, Ling. Huang Ling smiled and continued crawling forward. Finally, she finished crawling on the path of glass shards. Brother Mo. Once she got down, Huang Ling ignored the pain and sped up to climb to Maupassant's feet. Huang Ling. Maupassant lowered his head and looked at her excitedly. His eyes were filled with heartache. Huang Ling hugged his legs with both hands and slowly got up with the help of a force. I did it, we did it. Huang Ling said excitedly, her voice trembling. Just as she got up, her legs went soft and she fell again. She held on to Maupassant's waist with both hands. Maupassant's waist was slashed twice and there were knife wounds. Being grabbed by Huang Ling caused him to suck in a breath of cold air from the pain, and his body couldn't help but shudder. Huang Ling's palm was pierced by the glass shards. Some of the shards were still stuck in her flesh and did not come out. It was so painful that her joints were not flexible. She grabbed Maupassant's waist tightly and did not feel Maupassant's trembling. She struggled and used all her strength to get up. The pain from the soles of her feet made her unable to stand steadily. Her soft and bloody body fell onto Maupassant's body. I'll help you untie the rope. Huang Ling slowly moved behind Maupassant and reached behind him. Maupassant lowered his head and looked at Huang Ling with a complicated and heartbroken expression. Her clothes were all covered in blood. Have you untied it? He lowered his head and put his mouth close to Huang Ling's ear. His gentle voice was low and very pleasant to the ears. No, no. If only there was a knife. Huang Ling was very anxious. While Huang Ling was thinking about this, a bodyguard had already walked over with a very small military knife in his hand. He waved at the rope a few times and it broke. Maupassant had lost too much blood, and his legs were not as strong as usual. Once the rope was broken and Huang Ling was lying on top of him, he slid down the tree trunk and sat down. Huang Ling also fell with him. Without the rope binding his hands, Maupassant ignored the pain and hugged Huang Ling tightly in his arms. Huang Ling. Huang Ling. My Huang Ling. He was so excited that his voice trembled. He kept rubbing his face against Huang Ling's face and said in a choked voice, "Silly girl, why did you let yourself suffer such pain? Why do you torture yourself like this?" Huang Ling allowed him to hug her. She was not a soldier, and her endurance was not as strong as Maupassant's. Once she was rescued and relaxed a little, she felt pain all over her body. It was so painful that she had no strength left. She was like a person being chased by a dog. She did not know where she got the strength to run for her life. In the process of running, it was needless to say how strong her will was. Once she escaped to a safe place, she felt as though her whole body was drained of energy. Huang Ling felt that way now. Her body was soft and limp as Maupassant hugged her tightly. Smelling the blood on her body, Maupassant's heart ached and his eyes were hot. It's okay, it's okay. Huang Ling smiled as tears fell. Brother Imo, we're okay, we're okay. Tears wet her eyes and blurred her vision. She raised her head and touched Maupassant's face. Brother Imo, are you in pain? Chapter 1005. It doesn't hurt. Maupassant held her wrist. Seeing that her skin and flesh were rotten, his heart ached. He suddenly held Huang Ling's face and kissed her lips fiercely. Her lips were soft. Because they were soaked in sweat, there was a faint salty taste. Huang Ling was shocked. The moment Maupassant kissed her, she felt as if there was an electric current flowing through her body. The numbness made her pain disappear instantly. Huang Ling was stunned. She stared at him. Her brain crashed and she could not think. Maupassant's kiss was deep and urgent, revealing his heartache for her. Huang Ling only felt that her lips were being sucked so tightly that it hurt a little. He seemed to be sucking on her lips. His tongue also pried open her teeth and came to her territory. There, he was as excited as a deer, running around everywhere. The kiss made them forget the pain on their bodies. Huang Ling felt as if her heart was hit by a deer. She could not calm down. In her 2 lives, this was the first time she was kissed so deeply by a man. So, this was the feeling of kissing. Forgetting about life and death, there was only each other, Huang Ling. Huang Ling. Maupassant called out in a low and deep voice as he was deeply in love. Huang Ling's breath was taken away. When she was about to suffocate, Maupassant let go of her. He cupped her face and pressed their foreheads against each other. Maupassant stared at her deeply. He smiled and said in a low voice, "It tastes good." Huang Ling's pale face was also flushed with shyness. Brother Imo, why are you kissing me? We are going to be together forever. If I don't kiss you, who should I kiss? I'm so shy. I'm so shy that I'm dizzy. Huang Ling panted slightly. Her mind was a little muddy. She did not know if it was because of the injury, the kiss, or the sun. You're really someone who loves even after death. Magoo stood up. His slender legs were straight, and his eyes were filled with disdain. Hearing his words, Huang Ling suddenly thought of something. She suddenly turned around and looked at Magoo angrily. Magoo, you have to keep your word. Magoo curled his lips in disdain. I don't want to take your lives. Hurry up and leave. Don't die in my ranch. When I'm better, we'll go through the divorce procedures together. My lawyer will talk to you. He had no time to entertain her. After coldly speaking, Magoo turned around and strode away. He also told the bodyguards and ranch staff not to save them and to let them fend for themselves. Brother Imo, we can go now. Huang Ling was very excited that Magoo was willing to let them go. Maupassant was not afraid of death, but he would not seek death. He hugged Huang Ling and got up together. Let's go to the hospital. Ah. The moment Huang Ling stood up, the soles of her feet hurt. I'll carry you. No, your back is injured. You're so weak. Huang Ling rejected. Stupid woman, using weak to describe me. Aren't you afraid that I'll beat you up? Maupassant was very strong. Huang Ling's rejection was unsuccessful. He carried Huang Ling on his back and walked forward with difficulty. If Migu did not let them save him, they did not dare to. Maupassant's phone was destroyed by Migu. Huang Ling did not have a phone. Otherwise, they would have called an ambulance. Maupassant had lost too much blood. Huang Ling was right. He was very weak. It was not that Maupassant did not want to be strong. How could he be strong when he was bleeding non-stop? In the end, he and Huang Ling both fell on the grass. Maupassant felt very tired. He lay there and panted heavily, not letting himself faint. Huang Ling was not hurt by the fall. Maupassant used his own body to let her fall. I'll help you up. Brother Mo, I can walk. Let's leave this place together. Huang Ling was very afraid when she saw the wound on Maupassant's chest bleeding non-stop. Chapter 1006. She tried to help Maupassant up. For a moment, Maupassant's willpower seemed to have dissipated. If he lost too much blood, he would die. She did not know if it was because of her willpower dissipating or because the sun was too bright. Maupassant could not see Huang Ling's face clearly. He reached out and tried to touch Huang Ling's face, calling her softly, Huang Ling, Huang Ling. Huang Ling quickly held his big palm. Seeing him like this, she cried out anxiously. Brother Mo, how are you? Is it very painful? Wait for me, I'll get someone to save you. This is Migu's ranch. No one will save us. We can't wait for death here. You've lost a lot of blood, what's there to be afraid of death? Huang Ling, I want to hug you. Maupassant curled his lips weakly. In country L, I miss you every day. Me too. When you're not by my side, I miss you too. Huang Ling sobbed. You love me, don't you? Huang Ling was stunned. Why are you asking this at a time like this? I realized that. I love you so much. When I was alive, I wanted to be with you. After I die, I don't want you to be with me. Don't talk nonsense. Migu has let us go. We won't die. No matter if I'm by your side or not, you have to learn to take care of yourself. Don't give up too much for Song Wuyo. Huang Ling felt her heart ache. Promise me, okay? Maupassant tried hard to open his eyes and look at the woman in front of him. Huang Ling was silent. Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked at him quietly. After a long time, she lay on his chest gently. Afraid that she would hurt him, she leaned on the edge and caressed his handsome face with her hand. No, Brother Mo, the only one who can make me happy and make me feel that my life is full of sunshine is you. In this generation, I'll follow you. If you're a beggar, I'll follow you. If you join the army, I'll follow you to the army. Don't tell me that you want me to live well alone. If you really want me to live well, then stay by my side. Then, can you help me up? Little girl, you can't wait to get on top of me. I'm having trouble breathing. When Huang Ling heard this, she ignored the pain in her body and sat up abruptly. Slightly embarrassed, she hurriedly said, Let's go. Let me help you up. Brother Mo, let's help each other out of this damned place. The two of them stumbled to their feet and walked forward unsteadily. This time, Maupassant didn't carry Huang Ling on his back, and Huang Ling didn't want him to either. The two of them held each other's waist tightly and walked forward, supporting each other. Wherever they passed, the grass and leaves would be stained with the blood that flowed out from their bodies. Their steps were weak, but it was better than not being able to walk. Their breathing became more and more rapid, especially Maupassant's. His breathing was rapid and irregular, as though he was going to stop breathing soon. Huang Ling, I hate this feeling. Me too. I like the feeling of kissing you. In order to be able to kiss you better next time, I have to persevere. Huang Ling was speechless. What a lecherous man. Beads of sweat rolled down their cheeks and wet their eyelashes. Maupassant's lips slowly turned pale. Not only do I want to kiss you, I want to sleep with you. Okay, when you're better, you can sleep with me. Brother Amo, are you tired? I'm not tired. Huang Ling, tell me some dirty jokes. Why do you want to listen to dirty jokes? Huang Ling was speechless. A drop of sweat seeped into her eye from the corner of her eye. It was salty and stinging. She closed her eyes and opened them again. Chapter 1007. Listen, your mood will be better, and you will be able to persevere. When you were tired in the army, did you talk about sex with your buddies? Yeah, those brothers of mine are all very rude when they speak. Okay, I will tell you. Huang Ling did not know how to tell dirty stories. She told him about her experiences in her previous life. There was a girl who liked a boy. When she was 13 years old, she liked him. Well, puppy love matured early. Huang Ling said that the girl wanted to get that boy, and she fantasized about how to sleep with him. What happened in the end? Did she succeed in sleeping with him? Maupassant asked. No, I didn't. Huang Ling lied to him. That was in her previous life. That was Song Wuyo's body, not hers, Huang Ling's. The girl's tricks are not good. If she wants to sleep with a man, she should learn from Qing Wanduo. You see, she even slept with Migu. At that time, the girl had not developed well. She suffered from malnutrition since young. Maupassant's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. Take a break. He lay on the grass and panted. He turned his head and saw Qing Wanduo. When he saw Qing Wanduo, his eyes suddenly turned cold. Huang Ling noticed his strange look and thought that Migu had changed his mind. She was shocked and turned her head to look. Qing Wanduo. Qing Wanduo stood there. She was enchanting, and the bright sunlight made her even more dazzling. He had to admit that she was a very attractive woman. She was very good-looking. Qing Wanduo looked indifferent and threw a mobile phone to Huang Ling. This is the mobile phone that Migu confiscated from you. I am returning it to you now. She had been following them for some time, and she had to admit that she was touched by their feelings. Gu Yanhao loved Song Wuyo, and Maupassant loved Huang Ling. She hoped that one day, Migu would also love her. Seeing the phone, Huang Ling was like a drowning person who saw a life-saving piece of driftwood. She quickly picked up the phone. Thank goodness. There was electricity. The first thing she did was to call 120 and then Song Wuyo's phone. After the two calls ended, Huang Ling looked at Maupassant happily. Brother Mo, the ambulance will be here soon. We can't rest any longer. Let's leave the ranch quickly. Maupassant smiled at her and said, Okay. Qing Wanduo stood there and watched them struggle to stand up. She narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Huang Ling. She said coldly, You're asking for trouble. You're so cheap. For a man, you let yourself get hurt so badly. Is it worth it? When she said that, Qing Wanduo felt sour in her heart. Huang Ling did not have time to pay attention to her. She and Maupassant supported each other as they left the ranch. This is love. It was Mo Bosun who coldly threw a sentence at her. Cheng Wanduo bit her lower lip. This is love. Love would only hurt people. Finally, Maupassant and Huang Ling walked out of the ranch. From the time Cheng Wanduo gave Huang Ling the phone and walked out of Migu, it was already half an hour later. Migu was located in a remote area. It was surrounded by mountains. Other than the ranch, there were no residents. Therefore, there would not be any taxis or buses passing by. Maupassant and Huang Ling fell and sat on the side of the road. It was still okay to be on the grass. There was a road in front of them. The heat from the cement was so strong that they felt dizzy and their heads were swollen. Huang Ling's throat was so dry that it hurt. She looked ahead anxiously and said weakly, "Why isn't the ambulance here yet?" Maupassant said indifferently, "Maybe it's Migu's doing. He doesn't want us to leave here alive." Chapter 1008. Now, Huang Ling only had hatred for Migu. Devil. A devil who had suddenly turned evil. Suddenly, Huang Ling's eyes lit up. She didn't know where she got the strength, but she pointed to the road ahead. "Brother Mo, car. There's a car coming." Maupassant looked up. Through his blurry vision, he saw a car driving towards them at high speed. He wasn't as agitated as Huang Ling. "Those who are coming here are all Migu's men. Don't expect them to save us." When Huang Ling heard that, she was discouraged and became listless. She looked at Maupassant worriedly. "Brother Mo, can you hold on?" Maupassant slowly tilted his head and looked at her with a hint of affection in his eyes. I have to hold on." Hiss! Suddenly, a piercing sound of brakes pierced the air. Huang Ling and Maupassant were slightly startled. The car had just stopped when the car door opened quickly. Huang Ling. Song Wuyo practically jumped out of the car and ran to them as fast as she could. When she saw that Huang Ling and Maupassant were full of injuries, as well as the glass shards under Huang Ling's feet, Song Wuyo was shocked. What happened? Seeing that it was Song Wuyo, Huang Ling was delighted. "Wuyo!" Then, tears streamed down her face. She was very sad and aggrieved. Maupassant looked at her. Why was this woman crying like an injured child seeing her own mother when she saw Song Wuyo? Shouldn't she throw herself into his arms and cry with such sadness and grievance? "Madam, help them into the car first." Lu Jiming and Su Jing quickly got out of the car. Lu Jiming quickly went over to help Maupassant. Su Jing and Song Wuyo helped Huang Ling into the car. As soon as the door was closed, the car drove to the best hospital nearby at the fastest speed. At the ranch, in the bungalow, Migu lay on the sofa and closed his eyes to rest. A bodyguard came in. Before the bodyguard could speak, Migu asked indifferently, "Maupassant is dead?" He was not asking if they were dead, but Maupassant. He knew that Maupassant's injuries were not fatal, but if the blood was not treated, it would continue to flow and would not stop on its own. After bleeding for so long, it was time to die. The bodyguard replied, "He was picked up by someone. His subordinates are really capable. They even know that he's here. It wasn't his men who took her away. It was Mrs. Gu." When Migu heard this, he suddenly opened his eyes. That gaze was so sharp that it made the bodyguard secretly shiver. He looked at the bodyguard sharply. "Wuyo." The bodyguard nodded. "Yes." Migu frowned. Why did Wuyo suddenly appear at the ranch? Was she here for Aho's whereabouts? The atmosphere in front of the hospital's emergency room was tense. When Maupassant was sent to the hospital, he was already in a state where he was about to faint. Now, he was already in the emergency room. Huang Ling's condition was not good either. She was sent to the intensive care unit. From the ranch to the hospital, Huang Ling briefly told Song Wuyo the ins and outs of the matter. Maupassant broke into the Mu residence to save her and was caught by Migu. Migu deliberately made things difficult for Maupassant. He injured him and asked Huang Ling to step on the glass shards to save him. Huang Ling's injuries were caused by the glass shards. Her flesh was so rotten that people did not dare to look at it directly. The doctor said that it would be a major surgery to remove the glass shards. Whether she could survive or not depended on whether the wound would be infected or not. Song Wuyo sat quietly at the door of the emergency room, waiting for them. She hated Migu's methods to the core. Migu had promised her that he would let Huang Ling live a good life. Was this his so-called good life? Chapter 1009. When she saw that Huang Ling was covered in injuries, her heart ached as if she was the one who was injured. No, it was more painful than her being injured. The more she was injured, the more numb she felt. But when she saw that Huang Ling was injured, she couldn't be numb. She had always thought that Migu was a gentleman. She didn't expect him to be so demonic. When Su Jing returned with the water, she saw that Song Wuyo didn't look well and her clothes were stained with blood. Su Jing walked over and sat down beside Song Wuyo. She passed the water to her and said, "Miss, have a drink." Song Wuyo took the water and looked at Su Jing. "Su Jing, why do you think Migu suddenly became like this? Even if his memories from his previous life were awakened, he shouldn't have become like this. Because he was a hero in his previous life." Su Jing's thoughts weren't so complicated. Maybe it's because Huang Ling and Maupassant are together, which agitated him. After all, Huang Ling is his wife. Hearing this, Song Wuyo smiled and said, "Maybe, miss, do you think that young Master Gu is here because of your intuition?" Su Jing looked at Song Wuyo and asked. Last night, Song Wuyo was very uneasy. She had a strong feeling that Gu Yanhao was at the ranch. So when the sun rose, she asked Lu Jiming to drive over. Not long after she got off the highway, she received a call from Huang Ling. She heard that she and Maupassant were injured and were about to die. She was so shocked that she asked Lu Jiming to drive over at full speed. She didn't know if her strong intuition was wrong. She felt that Gu Yanhao was here, and when she came over, she realized that it was Huang Ling who was here, and she was so badly injured. Perhaps it was because this body was Huang Ling's to begin with. Huang Ling was born into this body, so she would have this strange feeling. Now that he saw Huang Ling, this feeling seemed to have disappeared. Gu Yanhao's whereabouts were lost again. It had been 3 days since the bridge collapsed, and the police had already stopped rescuing people. As for her husband, Gu Yanhao, his whereabouts were still unknown. Even if he died, there should be a corpse, right? Just like Ade, Song Wuyo was convinced and comforted herself that Gu Yanhao was going to do what he wanted to do, which was to secretly find out the mastermind who framed him. 4 hours later. The door to Maupassant's resuscitation room finally opened. The bullet had been removed from his body, and the wound from the knife had been stitched up. Fortunately, the hospital happened to have blood suitable for Maupassant. The timely blood transfusion saved his life. Huang Ling's operation was completed. However, Huang Ling's condition did not seem to be good. Her skin and flesh were torn in many places, like chopped meat. Some of the wounds could not be sutured, but it also could not be left unsutured. Moreover, there were some slight infections. After being injected with tetanus, Huang Ling showed signs of shortness of breath and stopped breathing, which scared the doctors. Fortunately, her condition was stable in the end. Next, they had to see if she had a high fever because of the infection. The wounds had been applied with the best medicinal powder and wrapped with gauze. Now, Huang Ling was wrapped up like a mummy. They had to observe for a few days to see if the wounds had necrotic. Maupassant was just bleeding too much, but his condition was easy to treat. After the bullet was removed, the wound was stitched up, and the blood transfusion, his blood pressure returned to normal. Moreover, his body was strong, which was rare among doctors. With such a strong body, he could probably walk on the bed tomorrow. As for Huang Ling, it seemed that she did not want to get out of bed for a week. The soles of her feet were injured. Chapter 10:10. The doctor had underestimated Maupassant. Maupassant was diagnosed to be able to get out of bed the next day. He actually got out of bed 5 hours after the surgery when he didn't feel any anesthesia. Other than his pale face, he was in good spirits. He requested to share a VIP ward with Huang Ling, and the doctor followed him. This didn't affect their treatment. Huang Ling's face and forehead were also scratched by glass shards. Now, her face and forehead were wrapped in gauze. Maupassant's first reaction when he saw her was very exaggerated and annoying. "Brother Ling, are you playing the role of a mummy?" Huang Ling hadn't woken up yet and didn't hear this sentence. Otherwise, she would have jumped up and kicked Maupassant. Not only was the VIP ward spacious, but the patient's bed was also half the size of a normal hospital bed. To be precise, it was as comfortable as her own bed. Maupassant saw that Huang Ling hadn't woken up yet. He unceremoniously pulled the blanket onto the bed and lay beside Huang Ling. "You're completely ignoring me." Sitting on the sofa by Huang Ling's side, Song Wuyo was quite speechless at Maupassant. "Ah." Maupassant turned sideways and looked at Song Wuyo. "I really didn't see you." The corner of Song Wuyo's eyes twitched. "I thought that Aho and I were a pair of lovey-dovey dogs. I didn't expect you to be even more lovey-dovey." At the mention of Gu Yanhao, Maupassant raised his eyebrows. "Still no news of young Master Gu?" Song Wuyo's gaze was slightly bitter. "No, but I firmly believe that he will be fine." Maupassant also hoped that Gu Yanhao would be fine. He looked deeply at Song Wuyo. "I will help you investigate the collapse of the Nanjiang Bridge." Song Wuyo smiled. "The answer given by the police is already very clear. Because of the shoddy construction, the bridge suddenly collapsed. The person who was in charge of this project was also arrested." "Maupassant, I think this is a conspiracy against young Master Gu." Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Maupassant and said faintly, "I actually hope that this is a conspiracy." If it was a conspiracy, who else could be so capable other than Migu? If it was Migu, she would still trust him a little. He would not kill Gu Yanhao. Or perhaps Gu Yanhao already knew that this was a conspiracy. Just like the last time when the plane crashed, he used a smokescreen to hide from everyone's eyes. In fact, he was in a very safe place. Maupassant looked at Song Wuyo in confusion. "Why do you hope that this is a conspiracy?" Song Wuyo smiled gently. "Ah Ho is very smart. If it was a conspiracy, he would have a chance to know. If it was fate, he could not guard against it." Maupassant thought for a while and nodded. "That's true. I suspect that this is a conspiracy, and Migu is definitely involved." Song Wuyo looked at him. "Let's keep these words in our hearts in the future. Don't say it impulsively. Not only will we alert the enemy, but we may also be killed. We don't have enough evidence, so we can't speak carelessly." "I know. I'm not a fool. Don't tell Huang Ling either." "Okay." Song Wuyo stood up. "I'm relieved that you're fine. But Huang Ling's situation is not optimistic. If you're here, I'll go back." "Back to M City?" Maupassant asked. "No, Su Jing helped me book a room in a hotel near the hospital." "Okay." Song Wuyo walked out of the hospital. Uncle Fu came forward and said respectfully, "Mrs. Gu." When Song Wuyo saw him, she knew that Migu was looking for her. She looked at Uncle Fu and asked directly, "Where does Migu want to see me?" "The ranch?" "Yes." Uncle Fu nodded. Chapter 10-11. Song Wuyo said indifferently, "Tell Migu that I feel disgusted by the smell of blood recently. I refuse to go to the ranch." Uncle Fu was a shrewd man. "Mrs. Gu, are you refusing to go to the ranch or refusing to see my young master?" Song Wuyo smiled at Uncle Fu. "Why would I refuse to see your young master?" Uncle Fu smiled. "I'm thinking too much." "Mrs. Gu, wait a moment. I'll call young master and explain the situation to him." Song Wuyo nodded with an indifferent expression. After Uncle Fu hung up the phone with Migu, he said to Song Wuyo with a smile, "Mrs. Gu, young master said that he has made a reservation at the Cozy Farmhouse restaurant. Mrs. Gu, come with me." Cozy Farmhouse restaurant, luxurious private room. There were all sorts of luxurious dishes on the table. Migu peeled the lobster for Song Wuyo in a gentlemanly manner and placed the meat on the plate. He said gently, "Eat more. These lobsters are very clean. They were raised without any feed. They taste delicious." Song Wuyo did not look at the lobster meat. From the moment she entered, she had been sitting there and looking at Migu silently. Migu saw her looking at him as though nothing had happened. He smiled warmly at Song Wuyo. "Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face?" Song Wuyo looked at him. She wanted to look at him seriously to see why he had become so ridiculous and demonic. "Why? Why did you hurt Huang Ling like that?" she asked Migu coldly. "She cheated on me. This is a lesson for her. She will remember it and not cheat on me again." Migu smiled. When he talked about Huang Ling, it was as if he was in a better mood than drinking plain water. Cheating. Song Wuyo felt that these words were very sarcastic. "Are you slapping yourself in the face? Huang Ling had an affair in her marriage. What are you? What about the child in Qing Wandua's belly?" Migu lowered his head and peeled the shrimp. He glanced at her and smiled, his eyes twinkling. "Worryless, men are different from women. Isn't it normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines? This is ancient thinking. You think it's an old-fashioned way of thinking, but I think many men desire to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. If I change K country's marriage laws so that women can only have 1 husband and men can have multiple wives, the men of K country will definitely treat me as a treasure. As the president, how dare you say something like that? Aren't you afraid that all the women in the country will throw eggs at you? Polygamy. That's because you have a dirty mind. You're the president." "I'm really speechless." Song Wuyo's words were full of disdain. However, Migu's mood was not affected in the slightest. He was in a good mood to be able to eat quietly with her. This was the 3rd time he had eaten together since he became the president. The first 2 times, Gu Yanhao was by his side. He put the fresh shrimp meat on Song Wuyo's plate. "Wuyo, don't be angry. I'm just joking. The doctor said that if Huang Ling's skin and flesh are necrotic, she will have to undergo skin grafting surgery." Migu disagreed. "I will divorce her and give her a sum of money as compensation. I will ask the doctor to transfer my skin to her body." Migu paused when he heard that. His eyes darkened. "Wuyo, are you crazy? Skin grafting surgery is all about removing one's own skin. Your skin will not survive on her body. It's not up to you whether it can survive or not. If the doctor says it can, then it can. Huang Ling's body is not completely injured. She still has a few pieces of good skin, Migu said. Chapter 10-12. You promised me that you would respect her after we got married, treat her well, and try to like her. What happened after that? You put her under house arrest, got together with Qing Wanduo, and even let her suffer such a serious injury today. That's right, she does have good skin, but so what? In the future, when she gets hurt, I'll bear the pain with her. Even though you're not a doctor, I know that you have medical knowledge. After removing my skin, the wound will hurt, right? Migu pursed his lips and looked at Song Wuyo coldly. As long as I say it, no doctor will dare to do this operation for you. Song Wuyo smiled faintly. Maupassant will bring her to the military hospital in France. There, the doctors will listen to you. Wu Yu, you're trying to provoke me. No, I'm not trying to provoke you. What I said is true. Huang Ling is injured, and I want to bear the pain with her. Do you know why I suddenly came to your ranch? It's because I've been feeling uneasy since last night. I kept feeling that something was going to happen. Huang Ling was waiting for me here, anxiously waiting for me to save her life. When I arrived, she and Maupassant happened to be waiting for me by the roadside. I thought that if Huang Ling died, I would die with her. I thought that it was her soul that brought this body with her. Migu was stunned when he heard that. How could that be? If Huang Ling died, Wu Yu would die too. Huang Ling's soul would bring this body with her. Migu's gaze was deep. He had actually forgotten that Song Wuyo's body was originally Huang Ling's. Song Wuyo nodded and looked at Migu indifferently. Huang Ling was innocent from the beginning to the end. Whether it's marrying you or falling in love with Maupassant, it's not her fault, but you're treating her like this. She just wants to divorce you so that you can be together with Qing Wanduo openly. She wants to give the child in her womb a proper status so that he won't be shamed the moment he's born. She's doing this for your own good. Do you want the whole country to know that you have an illegitimate child? She still wants to be with Maupassant openly. Asking for a divorce is the right thing to do. But you use such a method to hurt her. Migu, I am very disappointed in you. Migu pursed his lips and looked deeply at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo said that she was very disappointed in him. When he heard this, his heart felt heavy. He was like a child who worked hard to learn and perform well. He ran to his mother excitedly, hoping that his mother would praise him. Finally, with a cold face, she said to him, I'm very disappointed in you. He didn't know what he had done wrong, but he was said to be disappointed. These were very sad words. Wuyo, let's not talk about Huang Ling. Let's eat, okay? Look, you haven't even picked up your chopsticks to eat the lobster. Migu curled his lips and smiled. I know you like lobster. You liked it in the Axe dynasty, and you like it here too. Song Wuyo frowned and looked at Migu. In the future, don't mention the Axe dynasty. Hearing this, Migu's expression changed slightly. He stopped eating and looked at Song Wuyo. You don't want to hear it. It's meaningless, Song Wuyo said indifferently. Migu smiled bitterly and his eyes were cold. It's meaningless. What if you go back one day? We'll talk about it when that day comes. Wuyo, you think it's meaningless, but I think it's very meaningful. I can't forget the bits and pieces between us in our previous life. What bits and pieces between us? Song Wuyo found it funny. Chapter 10-13. The 8 years we fought together, the time you were imperial concubine, the 3 years you were in the cold palace, the time we spent together was all part of our lives. Even though it was my wishful thinking, even though I know you only have Dongfang Xian in your heart, even though you are the master and I am the servant. But my feelings for you are no less than Dongfang Xian's. Do you know how I came to be here? Song Wuyo looked at him. Didn't he die and reincarnate? Migu said, Dongfang Xian imprisoned me in the dungeon and used all kinds of torture to ask me if I had slept with you. When I said no, he beat me up again. When I said yes, he beat me up again. I was tied to the cross and bled to death. Song Wuyo was shocked when she heard this. She looked at Migu in disbelief. Weren't you killed by the enemy? She really didn't know anything about him being imprisoned in the dungeon. The people in the palace all said that he had been assassinated by the enemy while protecting the country. When she heard the news, she grieved for a long time. She didn't expect him to be killed by Dongfang Xian. Song Wuyo frowned and looked at Migu silently. After a long time, she asked, Did you also imprison Ah Ho? When Migu heard this, a trace of surprise flashed through his deep eyes. Wuyo, what are you talking about? Why would I imprison Ah Ho? Your thoughts have been completely replaced by Tang Weibo. You can't accept it. Migu was a little angry. He said calmly, That's just your guess. What about the Gu clan? The poisonous children's clothing was your scheme, wasn't it? Migu didn't hide it. He opened his thin lips and said, Yes. When Song Wuyo heard this, her gaze suddenly became incomparably cold, and even more, there was disappointment. She looked straight at Migu. Why did you do this? Ah Ho destroyed Country L's weapon and secretly helped Country B. Not only that, he also wanted to interfere with the national affairs that I decided. Do you know how much he donated to Country B? I think he's too free and too rich. If I don't find something for him to do, he's always staring at me. I'm the president, and I know what I'm doing. I don't have to listen to him. Ah Ho didn't target you at all. He just wanted to help Country B. He didn't want Country L to destroy Country B. You didn't affect Country K's fate. Migu looked deeply at Song Wuyo. Wuyo, I just want to be busy with Ah Ho. Don't meddle in my affairs. What about Nanjong Bridge? You were the one who destroyed Nanjong Bridge, right? Song Wuyo looked straight into Migu's eyes and asked. When Migu heard this, he raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled bitterly. Am I so heartless in your heart? Do you know how many people died when Nanjong Bridge collapsed? Wuyo, fortunately, it was you. If it was someone else who suspected me, I would have killed her on the spot. He was infinitely tolerant of her. Migu's expression darkened and his tone was heavy. I know that Ade died in the bridge collapse and Ah Ho's whereabouts are unknown. Believe me, I will definitely find Ah Ho. Song Wuyo looked at Migu quietly. His expression was on point. She couldn't tell if he was lying. He admitted that he was the one who dealt with the Gu clan, but he didn't admit that the bridge collapsed. Did that bridge really collapse because of shoddy construction? Then, Ah Ho, Song Wuyo knew that Migu was a smart person. If he didn't admit it, there was nothing she could do. She couldn't force him to admit it as it was unrealistic and might backfire. She got up. I'm going back. Chapter 10:14. Migu raised his eyebrows and looked at her deeply. You didn't eat a single bite. Song Wuyo looked indifferent. Huang Ling is injured like that. Her condition is not optimistic. I have no appetite. Migu was unhappy. Huang Ling is injured, not you. If you don't eat, you are looking for trouble. Song Wuyo looked at Migu. Huang Ling is my best friend and sister. We used to share the same body. I still have her memories. When she is injured, I feel pain too. Migu's eyes were deep. So, I shouldn't let her get hurt. Song Wuyo smiled sarcastically. But she is still injured. Where are you staying now? In the hospital with Huang Ling. She is staying in the VIP ward. There is a bed for me to sleep in. Magoo looked up at her. Why don't you go to the ranch? You will be more comfortable there. Song Wuyo smiled. I am worried about Huang Ling, what a joke. Go to the ranch. Would Qing Wanduo chop her with a knife? Besides, she didn't want to go to the ranch. Wuyo. Seeing that she was about to turn and leave the private room, Magoo stopped her. Song Wuyo looked at him. Is there anything else? Magoo took out a bank card. There is 1 billion in it. Use it to invest in the Gu clan. When Ah Ho comes back, you can hand it to Ah Ho personally. Song Wuyo refused Magoo's money. The Gu clan needed this money very much, but she couldn't take it. Magoo raised his eyebrows. You want to refuse this too? Song Wuyo looked indifferent. I don't know how the Gu clan operates. If I take the money, I will only lose it all. Gu Yanhao was not around. She was now in charge of the Song enterprise. Secretary Zhang was in charge of the Gu clan group. She would only step in if Secretary Zhang couldn't make a decision on important matters. Now, most of the employees of the Gu clan had left. The Gu clan was almost an empty shell. Magoo had caused great harm to the Gu clan. Right now, it was as if he had given her a slap and a candy. This candy wasn't sweet at all, so why did she take it? Don't know how to do business. Aren't you in charge of the Song enterprise left by Song Nan? Magoo asked. That's because Ah Ho is helping me. Magoo looked deeply at Song Wuyo. If you are willing, I will also help you like Ah Ho. No need. Whether the Gu clan lived or died, it was up to fate. There is no company that can last forever. Song Wuyo did not say anything more. She turned around and left the private room. Magoo lowered his eyes and looked at the card in his hand. She was still the same. She had always rejected his good intentions. It was like this in the previous life, and it was also like this in this life. Young master, Uncle Fu came in and looked at Magoo with some concern. Why did you admit that you harmed the Gu clan? Aren't you afraid that Mrs. Gu will announce it to the public and seek justice for the Gu clan? Magoo frowned. His eyes were deep. I'm betting. Betting on what? Uncle Fu didn't understand. Betting on what position I have in her heart. Uncle Fu was shocked when he heard this. Young master, do you have feelings for Mrs. Gu? Magoo glanced sharply at Uncle Fu. It's not what you think. Don't make wild guesses about me. Uncle Fu quickly lowered his head. Yes, young master. But, young master, what if Mrs. Gu really tells the media? If she is a smart person, she won't. Because Ah Ho had not returned to her side yet. For the sake of Ah Ho, she didn't dare to act recklessly. Magoo knew that she was enduring. She suspected that the collapse of the Nanjiang Bridge had something to do with him, but she couldn't do anything about it. Magoo was not in the mood to eat. He got up and left the restaurant. After getting into the car, he instructed Uncle Fu. Ask my lawyer to bring the divorce agreement to the hospital tomorrow for Huang Ling to sign. Chapter 10-15. Song Wuyo returned to the hotel and stood on the balcony of the 33rd floor, looking at the neon lights. It was late at night and the lights were on. The bustling city and the restless people. Song Wuyo placed her hands on the railing gently and recalled the scene of the three of them leading the army in the Axe dynasty. Dongfang Xian and Tang Weibo, a general and a deputy general, they were both hot-blooded warriors. In the beginning, they did not have much to talk about. Sometimes, they even had conflicts because of strategies. Their feelings for each other had slowly deepened after experiencing life and death on the battlefield for 8 years. Tang Weibo saved Dongfang Xian, and Dongfang Xian also saved Tang Weibo. In the end, their relationship was like that of brothers. After Dongfang Xian became the emperor, Tang Weibo made a lot of contributions. Dongfang Xian even built a palace for him. He wanted him to have a family, but he refused to take a wife or concubine. During the 8 years on the battlefield, Song Wuyo only knew that Tang Weibo was very good to her, but she did not feel that he cared about her. Wuyo, this is for you. Wuyo, this is delicious. Eat first. Wuyo, be careful. Wuyo, rest in the barracks. Ah, Xian and I will lead the army in this battle. Wuyo, this flower will definitely look good on your ear. That dark-skinned, handsome, and cheerful man always thought of ways to make her happy when he was not on the battlefield. Because of this, he always made Dongfang Xian's face darken. The darker Dongfang Xian's face got, the more Tang Weibo teased her. That was a wonderful time. During those 3 years in the cold palace, Song Wuyo really missed the time when she was in the war. Her feelings were the same as now. Migu was the reincarnation of Tang Weibo. Their personalities were completely different. He still had the memories of his previous life, so why did he suddenly become like this? Because Dongfang Xian had imprisoned him until his death. But he should have known that the world was different. Gu Yanhao and Dongfang Xian were also different. Ah ho, Song Wuyo looked indifferent. She missed Gu Yanhao very much. Where are you? Was it really as they said, that they were swept away by the rapids, washed into the sea, and eaten by sharks or water ghosts? I don't believe it. You're so brave that you won't lose to the rapids. But where are you? Why can't I dream of where you are? Ah ho, I really miss you, I'm so worried about you. No matter how prosperous the city was, no matter how bright the neon lights were, so what? Without your company, all the prosperity and happiness seemed to have nothing to do with me. Ah ho, no matter where you are, I will wait for you to come back. Xiao Bao and I will wait for you at home. In the quiet basement, there was a steady and slow sound of footsteps. Migu's tall figure appeared in the dazzling basement. Drip, drip, his leather shoes made a rhythmic sound as they touched the floor. Previously, the basement was only as big as the ranch. Now, he had expanded it to the size of 2 ranches. The territory here belonged to him. The expanded basement was built into an underground palace by him. Everything here was exactly the same as Dongfang Xian's palace. The palace was dazzling. Every dragon on the red dragon pillars in the main hall was circling around. They were lifelike and exceptionally spectacular. Migu walked from the magnificent corridor to the last room. The design of the room was like a prison. Inside, there were braziers and arrowheads that only existed in ancient times. Chapter 10:16. Under the wall was a cross-shaped iron frame. Gu Yanhao, who was wearing a black shirt and trousers, was tied to the iron frame. Migu was not cruel. Gu Yanhao's arms were tied up and he was even given a chair to sit on. Hearing his footsteps, Gu Yanhao looked up. His gaze was as sharp as a sword and he stared coldly at Migu. Migu sat down on the soft chair opposite him. His slender legs were crossed, and his body leaned back lazily. His entire person was enchanting and cold. Today, I met with Worryless. Migu lit a cigar and took a drag. White smoke curled up from it, rising into the air. Gu Yanhao looked at Migu maliciously. What do you mean by capturing me like this? Migu took another deep breath. He did not want to be captured. Especially when he saw Song Wuyo's haggard face, he could not bear it. To stop you from investigating and framing the Gu clan. Magoo spat out a mouthful of white smoke. His eyes were a little dazed. Ah ho, I won't lock you up for too long. Wuyu is at the ranch. Gu Yanhao asked coldly. No, she's at the hospital. What happened to her? Gu Yanhao heard this and struggled. He stared at Magoo. Did you do something to her? Compared to Gu Yanhao's agitation, Magoo's expression was still very calm. He looked at Gu Yanhao indifferently and smiled gently. What can I do to her? I can't bear to do anything to her. Huang Ling is injured. She's accompanying Huang Ling in the hospital. Magoo, let me out. I told you, I won't lock you up for too long. I want to see if Wuyo will fall in love with me. What did you say? Gu Yanhao looked at Magoo dangerously. I want to make Wuyo think you're dead, and then make her fall in love with me. You bastard. Magoo smirked. His dark eyes were cold. That's right. I'm a jerk. You abused your power and killed so many innocent people. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Gu Yanhao's eyes were cold. Magoo looked at Gu Yanhao without any change in his expression. For those who sacrificed themselves for me, I will compensate their families financially and let them live a prosperous life. Gu Yanhao sneered, so arrogant, you've become so arrogant. Magoo smirked disapprovingly and took a puff of his cigarette elegantly. After smoking a cigar, he stood up and looked at Gu Yanhao with interest. I'll bring Wuyo to the manor another day. Magoo pointed up. She's so close to you, but she doesn't know that you're here. Gu Yanhao glared at Magoo maliciously. That gaze was not looking at a brother, but an enemy. Magoo had just taken 2 steps when he suddenly realized that he had missed out something. He stopped and turned around, looking at Gu Yanhao with a faint smile. I gave Wuyo 1 billion to save the Gu clan, but she refused. Gu Yanhao's eyes flickered. She was indeed his woman. There was a hint of a smile in Gu Yanhao's eyes. She won't want your things. That's right. She rejected me. I'm really disappointed. Magoo walked closer to Gu Yanhao and bent down slightly. He patted Gu Yanhao's shoulder gently and smiled like Satan. Ah ho, I believe that this is only temporary. One day, she'll even accept me as a person. Gu Yanhao looked at Magoo coldly. Don't you dare touch her with any despicable means. Magoo's lips curled up even higher. What can you do to me? You're tied up here by me now. Chapter 10:17. Magoo sized up Gu Yanhao. Looking at how wretched Gu Yanhao was, he was extremely pleased. Ah ho, there's a piece of bad news that I've been keeping from you. Your trusted aide is dead. The moment Gu Yanhao heard that, a surge of rage surged through him as he struggled and glared at Magoo with a bloodthirsty gaze. You killed Ade. When they were surrounded at the South River Bridge, Gu Yanhao knew that there was no way he could escape. At that time, the entire bridge was filled with his men and they were surrounded from the front and back. Magoo's men got out of the car and walked over to Gu Yanhao's car. They asked Gu Yanhao to get out of the car, saying that Magoo had to see him no matter what. If he did not get out of the car, the bridge would explode right away. By then, everyone who was driving on the bridge behind would die. Gu Yanhao did not want to hurt the innocent. Hence, he got out of the car and got into the car of Magoo's bodyguard. The moment he opened the car door, the bodyguard shot him with an anesthetic needle. He fell into a coma. When he woke up, he was tied up there. Magoo was the one who told him about the collapse of the bridge later on. Gu Yanhao was a beast. Not only did he capture him, he even hurt the innocent. However, he did not tell him that Ade was dead. Gu Yanhao was like an enraged beast as he struggled crazily. The chains that locked his limbs made clanking sounds as his body shook violently as he struggled. Even though it was an abrupt and ear-piercing sound, in Magu's ears, it sounded like a crisp and melodious piano tune. It was extremely pleasant to the ears and put him in a good mood. Magu took 2 steps back so that he could see Gu Yanhao's malevolent expression more clearly. Gu Yanhao's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Magu with bloodshot eyes. Truly, he was like a wild beast. You killed Ade. Magu was very satisfied to see Gu Yanhao's intense reaction. It was just like in his previous life, when he was in prison. At that time, Dongfang Xian had looked at him with eyes as cold as ice, without a trace of emotion. If Ade is not dead, how can I make Weo believe that you are dead? Bastard! I know that Ade is a good swimmer, so I gave him an anesthetic. No matter how good a swimmer was, he would still die after being submerged in water for a few hours. A few hours later, after the anesthesia, no one knew he was murdered. Magu looked deeply at Gu Yanhao. Ah ho, you look very much like me when I was locked up in the heavenly prison. So, at that time, I was in such a sorry state. Gu Yanhao bit down hard on his lower lip, trying his best to endure something. Ade was actually killed by him. Gu Yanhao knew that it was useless to scold Magu like a madman now. The news of Ade's death was a big blow to him. It was just like how he felt when his very close brother was suddenly killed. His heart was filled with pain. And the person who killed his brother was right in front of him, and he was once his good friend. Gu Yanhao was furious. He wanted nothing more than to skin Magu alive. I know you are very sad now. I will come and see you another day. Magu stepped forward and patted Gu Yanhao's face. Gu Yanhao's eyes were like those of a wild beast that wanted to eat Magu alive. It was very intimidating. If he was not tied up, he would definitely strangle Magu to death. After Magu left, Gu Yanhao stopped struggling. At this moment, his bloodthirsty eyes dimmed. Ade was dead, Magu had changed. The brotherly love they once shared had already changed. He was now very worried that Magu would use despicable means to force Song Wuyo. The child was her Achilles heel. Song Wuyo only arrived at the hospital the next morning. Chapter 10:18. Huang Ling woke up, but the wounds on her body made her moan from time to time. Song Wuyo watched as Maupassant coaxed Huang Ling like a child. In the spacious ward, she felt that she was unnecessary. Thus, she chatted with Huang Ling for a while before leaving. The two of them together were really torturous. Seeing that Huang Ling's condition wasn't good, Song Wuyo didn't talk to her about Gu Yanhao's disappearance or Ade's death. Huang Ling raised her hand and looked at the thick bandage. She said in despair, even if the wounds are healed, there will be large scars left. Even if there are large scars, I still think it looks good. If you're afraid of people laughing, wear gloves when you go out. Not only will there be scars on your hands, but also on your legs. She was devastated at the thought of her fair skin being scarred like a burn. Maupassant, who was lying on his side, smiled charmingly and handsomely. It's okay, just treat it as a tattoo. Anyway, no matter what you become, you'll always be my brother Ling. No man will like a woman with bad skin. Dark-skinned women are already so despised, not to mention one with so many scars on her body. Huang Ling said gloomily. My face is injured too. It hurts even when I talk. Since it hurts to talk, then don't talk. Brother Ling, I'm not other men. If I say I don't despise you, then I won't despise you. Maupassant said seriously. His brown eyes shone with a serious light. Huang Ling looked at him and suddenly felt that he was very, very handsome. No matter how she looked at him, she wouldn't get tired of him. What if there are scars on your chest too? Maupassant smiled charmingly. Then I'll kiss her once every day to tell her that I love her. Huang Ling felt her face heat up. Suddenly, she thought of his kiss and her heart pounded. She looked straight into Maupassant's eyes. Brother Mo, are you serious about me? Maupassant raised his eyebrows. Are you questioning my feelings? Isn't it good to be brothers? Why do we have to be lovers? Because I want you to bear my children. With my injuries, I don't even know if I can give birth. It's not like I'm asking you to give birth right now. Huang Ling blinked and looked at Maupassant. Aren't we developing too fast? Maupassant raised his eyebrows and looked coldly at the woman beside him. Is it fast? How long have we known each other? A long time. When I was in Country L, did I video call you every night? More or less. Although it wasn't every night, it was close enough. Which couple is as hardworking as us? Fast. But, we were brothers before. I didn't want to be brothers with you for a long time. Maupassant raised his hand and touched Huang Ling's face gently. Yes, he only touched a layer of gauze. He looked at Huang Ling affectionately. I don't know when I started not wanting to be brothers with you. Huang Ling's eyes were clear and bright like black pearls. She looked at Maupassant seriously. This guy, if he didn't shave his beard for a day, his beard would be very obvious. He said that if he didn't shave it for 3 days, it would grow really long. Huang Ling felt that he was really sexy and wild when he didn't shave his beard. Just like that, he laid beside her. She could feel the aura of his body that was filled with male hormones as well as his strong heartbeat. A warm current and sense of security flowed into her heart. She looked at the man's face and smiled. Brother Mo, no matter if we're brothers or lovers, I'm definitely going to follow you. Chapter 10:19. Her words made Maupassant's heart move. If she was not injured, he would have pressed her under his body and fiercely loved her. He curled his lips and smiled evilly. His beautiful eyes were dyed with his smile like a cunning fox. Even if you don't follow me, I will still pester you for a lifetime. Maupassant deliberately emphasized the word lifetime, as if he was emphasizing something. His voice was mellow. Huang Ling's heartstrings seemed to have been gently pulled by 2 fingers, causing ripples to appear in her heart. Her heartbeat quickened, and at this moment, she was surrounded by happiness. If she was not injured, she would have pounced on him and thrown herself into his arms. Damn it, love first and talk later. Who knows if it will last forever? Wuyo is right. The man who loves me is on his way. Now, he is already by my side. Huang Ling looked at Maupassant. Her face was wrapped in gauze, but her eyes revealed all her emotions. Maupassant saw it clearly. I am by your side. You have to cherish me, okay? Maupassant looked at Huang Ling evilly. Aren't you the one who cherishes me? Huang Ling asked back. I have already asked my mommy for the Mo family's heirloom, a bracelet that only the daughter-in-law of the Mo family can wear. When you recover, I will personally put it on your wrist and handcuff you to my side for the rest of your life. He wanted to be with her. When Huang Ling heard this, her eyes lit up. The Mo family's heirloom. Isn't it a very beautiful bracelet? The family heirloom sounds very grand. Is it worth a lot of money? In a sense, it is very valuable. It has been passed down from generation to generation. But in terms of money, it might not be very expensive. Maupassant said seriously. I am just joking with you. I feel that Brother Mo is so quick to ask your mom for the heirloom. Your mom is also the Mo family's heirloom. Shouldn't she wear it? There are 3. The ancestor left behind 3 bracelets. If any generation has more sons, then the eldest, second, and third daughter-in-law will wear them. If any generation has only 1 son, then the 3 bracelets will be handed over to the only daughter-in-law for safekeeping and then left for the next generation. My dad and I have only 1 son. What if your father or you have a mistress or mistress outside? Don't worry about that. The men in my family are all very loyal and not the kind of people who change their minds. So, marrying me is a wise choice. Maupassant curled his lips and looked at Huang Ling with a smile. Why did Huang Ling feel that this man was promoting her and advertising her? You don't believe me? Maupassant raised his eyebrows when he saw the smile in Huang Ling's eyes. Your father might be loyal, but you're not. When we met, didn't you like Li Xinxin? How long has it been and you've fallen in love with me? Maupassant's eyes darkened when he heard that. I was very young and did not have the first awakening of love before I joined the army. I was promoted by Li Zhongjin. When I was young and ignorant, he told me that he would marry his only daughter to me in the future. You also know that my army is full of men. I spent every day with a group of men. Every time Li Xinxin and her father, Li Zhongjin, came to the army, I could not help but take a few more glances at Li Xinxin. At that time, she looked quite pure. She was tall and had fair skin. But when I thought that she would be my wife in the future, my mood changed. Until I grew up, I did not pay attention to other women. It was not that I was focused on Li Xinxin, it was that I did not have the time to interact with and understand her. Chapter 10:20. I was thinking that since I was going to marry a wife in the future, it didn't matter who I married. But after my mommy got along with Li Xinxin for a few times, she kept nagging me not to marry her. At that time, I was thinking, if I didn't marry her, who would I marry? My mommy said that I could get to know more girls so that I would realize that there are all kinds of women in this world. At that time, I would be clearer about the kind of girl I want. But I didn't have time. At that time, I always thought that my career was more important than anything else. In the future, I would marry Li Xinxin. I didn't need to waste time getting to know more girls. At that time, I was thinking, aren't all women the same? After that, Maupassant looked at Huang Ling affectionately. Huang Ling, I think that meeting you was God's arrangement. I accidentally saved Song Wuyo. Isn't Song Wuyo beautiful? Her face is devastatingly beautiful. But when I first saw her, I didn't feel anything. But when I saw you at Wuyo Manor for the first time, I remembered you. This is the so-called fate. After spending time with you, I've slowly developed a kind of longing for you. When I heard that you were getting married to Migu, I felt that the whole sky had collapsed. That day, I seemed to have gone crazy and vented all my emotions on my brothers. Huang Ling suddenly remembered that his brothers had said that he looked terrible when he was heartbroken. Was it that time? Later, when I found out that you weren't bullied by Migu and that you were still my pure girl, I was so happy. At this point, Maupassant couldn't hide the excitement in his eyes. So you have a first girl complex. If Migu had done something to me, would you not have said these words to me and not barged into the Mu estate to save me? No. Of course not. I'm not a virgin. If you and Migu are in love and live a normal married life, I won't have any thoughts about it. But that bastard Migu doesn't love you, and you don't love him either. If he bullies you like a beast, it will definitely leave a shadow in your heart. If such a thing really happened, I would feel guilty and blame myself for not being able to protect you, not despise you. Now, you're not being bullied. You don't have that burden and shadow in your heart. I'm very happy. As he spoke, Maupassant's lips curved into a beautiful and sexy arc. He looked really happy. Huang Ling looked at him. What if I was really bullied? You really don't mind at all? No. Maupassant looked at Huang Ling seriously. You were bullied, and you didn't want to do it. I don't mind. Huang Ling, do you know? When my mommy heard that I liked a married woman, she told me not to have a first girl complex. My thoughts are like my mommy's. Open, reasonable, and wise. Are you praising yourself in disguise? Huang Ling wanted to know this, Madame Mo. If I don't praise myself in front of you, how would you know that I'm better than other men? Maupassant smiled. No. Huang Ling looked at Maupassant deeply. In my heart, you're already the best man. Other men can't compare to you. Maupassant was like a little boy who had won a competition. He smiled proudly and looked at Huang Ling. Ling, I really want to kiss you, hold you in my arms, love you fiercely, and touch your whole body. Chapter 10:21. When Maupassant called her Ling, Huang Ling's heart skipped a beat. His words caused Huang Ling's heart to race. If not for the bandage on her face, we would have been able to see how red her face was. Huang Ling thought about how he kissed her affectionately back at the ranch. Her heart felt warm and tender as it thumped wildly like a little deer. She glared at Maupassant. So, you're such a hooligan. Maupassant smirked evilly. It's too late for you to know now. Brother Mo, do all the men in the army look manly on the surface, but their hearts are dirty? Any man who isn't a soldier would be like that. No, some men are dirty on the inside but even dirtier on the outside. That's why all men are dirty. Don't talk about soldiers. Be careful not to get beaten up by other soldiers. Huang Ling looked at Maupassant with a smile in her eyes and her voice turned soft unknowingly. Brother Mo, it's good to know you. He made her truly understand what it meant to feel safe, what it meant to be happy, what it meant to be pampered, what it meant to be heartbroken, and what it meant to be kissed. Maupassant leaned over and kissed her long eyelashes. His voice was deep and mellow. Our relationship has taken a step forward. Don't call me Brother Mo anymore. I'll think that we're aliens are. Isn't it normal for me to call my man Brother Mo? Your man. Maupassant raised his head and rested his head in his hands. He did not know how seductive he looked with that seductive smile of his. When did Brother Mo become your man? Huang Ling's face heated up and she said, anyway, it's just a matter of time. I'm just saying it in advance. Your man. I'll be your man. You're doing well. You've finally admitted that I'm your man. Maupassant smiled. Huang Ling was embarrassed to look at her with such a gaze. Since I'm your man, you'll have to change how you address me in the future, okay? Maupassant. My body is strong. You won't be able to take it if I punish you with my actions. Maupassant's eyes flashed with a naughty smile. Posen. That sounded terrible. 3 times a night. How about that? Momo. 5 times a night. I'm fine with it. Momo then. After thinking about it, Huang Ling felt. This should feel good. Just to think about it feels. This should feel. Just. Huang, 7 times a night. It's not a problem for me. When Maupassant heard that, he raised his eyebrows. He felt as if he had dug a hole and jumped into it himself. Momo. Huang Ling clumsily reached out and touched Maupassant's chest. Momo can only be called by me. I can only touch you. Other women are not allowed to have such benefits. Okay. Maupassant smiled. He liked her domineering possessiveness. This feeling was good. It was the feeling of being valued. This woman regarded him as a treasure. Don't touch me so hard. I have wounds on my body. It hurts. Maupassant looked at Huang Ling with a smile. His eyes were full of love. When Huang Ling heard him say that it hurt, she retracted her hand. She blinked and looked at him. Maupassant smiled like a demon. Chapter 10:22. I didn't touch you hard. Did I hurt you? No, I'm just teasing you. Momo is so naughty. You touched me. How can you not be naughty? Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door of the ward. Huang Ling's eyes lit up. Could it be Magoo's lawyer? When Maupassant heard that it was Magoo's lawyer, his expression was no longer doting, and there was no longer a smile in his eyes. Come in. His voice was calm and had a sense of authority. The door of the ward was gently pushed open. A young man in a suit and leather shoes came in with a briefcase. When he saw a man and a woman lying on the hospital bed, the man's expression was strange for a moment. He thought to himself, are they doing that? Did he come at the right time? He was the lawyer hired by Magoo. The lawyer took a look at Huang Ling. When he saw that Huang Ling was wrapped up like a mummy, he thought to himself, how can she still be in the mood to flirt with someone like this? Maupassant sat up from the bed gracefully. Let's talk about business. The lawyer was very arrogant. He ignored Maupassant's words and looked at Huang Ling. Are you Miss Huang Ling? Do I need to show my identification? Huang Ling asked in a bad mood. They were already in the ward, and he still asked if she was Huang Ling. Did he think that she was a fake Huang Ling after being wrapped up like this? The lawyer's expression was serious. He took out 2 documents from his briefcase and passed them to Huang Ling. Mr. Magoo asked you to sign these. Huang Ling did not take them. Although she wanted to sign them earlier, her palms were swollen and she could not hold them. She looked at the documents handed to her by the lawyer. The words on the first page were very obvious. It was the divorce agreement. Huang Ling raised her head and looked at the lawyer. Can I get someone to sign it for me? Look at my hand. Huang Ling raised her hand. Without waiting for the lawyer to respond, Maupassant snatched the divorce agreement and the pen from the lawyer's hand. Swish. Swish. Without hesitation, he signed Huang Ling's name in the space where Huang Ling's signature was supposed to be. Huang Ling and the lawyer were speechless. After signing, Maupassant flipped through the contents of the agreement for a while. There were no excessive demands, and Magoo had already signed the man's signature position and even put his fingerprint. There were 2 copies, one for the man and one for the woman. Maupassant threw one copy to the lawyer and said with a sullen face, you can take it and get lost. Maupassant was very rude, and the lawyer didn't like it. His Mr. President was still gentle and elegant. The lawyer continued to ignore Maupassant and rummaged through his briefcase. He took out a check and handed it to Huang Ling. This is the compensation from Mr. Magoo. Compensation. Huang Ling's eyes flashed with surprise. Magoo would compensate her. She raised her neck and looked at the number on the check. There were a lot of zeros behind it. She counted. 300 million. She turned her head and looked at Maupassant. Isn't 300 million too little? Maupassant's expression was cold. I don't care. But I care. I have money for you to spend. No, Momo, I want to give it to Gu Yanhao to help the Gu clan. Young Master Gu's whereabouts are still unknown. Wuyo alone can't handle it. Maupassant spilled the beans. What did you say? Huang Ling was shocked. Gu Yanhao is missing. Maupassant looked at Huang Ling. Yes. Since he had said it, there was no point in hiding it anymore. How could this be? Huang Ling's heart tightened. Wuyo didn't say anything to her. Nanjiang Bridge collapsed, Ade is dead, and young Master Gu's whereabouts are unknown. Maupassant said simply, "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."